John Brown Canyon is out in the Madras area. I don't know that I can explain fully where it is because I know after being out there, there's not a lot out there.
He was born in the 40s in Canada to black parents who were born in Georgia. He had to be at least a naturalized person, presumably a bona fide citizen, to be able to vote as he did, and also to be a homesteader. He picked a really good place. He must have known something about farming. The climate down here is much milder than it is up on top. You can raise fruit without ever any danger of it freezing. Some of my earliest memories of asking about this canyon and being told that it was Nigger Brown Canyon.
You had black exclusion laws that had been in existence since the mid-1800s, and yet we know that there were some blacks who came here and did in fact own property. Either they were given that property by a white, existing landowner, or they bought property from an existing landowner in spite of these laws.
The house there, the railroad used it when they came through, which was 1910-11. He was never talked about much because no one knew it really needed to be talked about. Even he, I would say, figured that's the proper name at that time. Out here, yeah, and when I first heard it as a kid, I figured, oh, well, okay, that's his name. I didn't know there's any good or bad or correct or incorrect.
The racist term had been perceived locally, I think, in the 50s, so they didn't use the name at all. The canyon was essentially unnamed. It was just the canyon.
There's Negro Rock and Negro Springs, Negro Flat,
Negro Creek, Negro Ridge,
Negro Gulch, Negro Knob.
As I read these names on the map, there's an emotional reaction. It just typifies the way things were in that time period. When you read back through newspapers and even diaries of people, that's how black people were referred to, as nigger or Negro if you were kind of lucky. Now, when you say Negro to people who were born in this century, let's say, or the last few years, they find that offensive. But as you look back on some of the terminology that was used, even up into the 60s, Martin Luther King is saying Negro. That's what we called ourselves, that's what other people called us. So it wasn't necessarily a derogatory term. Nigger has always been one.
In 1962, the Secretary of Interior asked the U.S. Board on Geographic Names to quit using the word nigger, and the board basically did an across-the-board change to Negro. The U.S. Geological Survey, when it was redoing maps in the 1950s, changed it to Negro Bend Mountain. And then, according to a letter that I found in the record of the Department of Interior's Geological Survey,
in view of its long-established usage and the absence of any evidence of derogatory intent or local objection, we feel that our change to Negro Bend was not necessary.
Apparently the Forest Service questioned why they had made the change. They didn't think it was derogatory intent, of course. At the time they were lynching people, calling them by that name in the South. And something I noticed about the people talking about the Negro Knob is that even though the name was changed in the early 1960s, apparently that change hasn't caught up with a lot of the people who are still using the name. And I think that is something to think about too.
The oral history is that he discovered he had a gold claim, and he would occasionally take gold nuggets to Prineville to liquidate them. I'm sure that the African American would stand out, just in the nature of things, but there wasn't anything like a community that was established then. For whatever reason, he took off.
Someone said that a concern that they had was that if these names are completely wiped out, then we lose that bit of the fact that there were black people there. I think on the one hand, it says something about the community that they haven't had the sensitivity, I guess, or the historical courage to be able to say that's no longer acceptable. Therefore, we want to change it to a person's name or some other thing. And the fact that it hasn't been done, I think that says something to an African American person, for example. It says that people don't care, or that's really how they feel, and they want to retain that whole derogatory emphasis.
I thought that as long as we'd found this much out about John Brown, we should formally request that the canyon be named. Now, get it right. Not just Nigger Brown or Negro Brown, but we had his name, John A. Brown. He was, without question, the first African-American homesteader in Central Oregon. There's no question about that. He was, I think, one of the first homesteaders in this immediate area, of any race.
Now, Oregon is a very contradictory state, and that kind of contradiction, I still see that in play today.
And he did pretty well because he has 3 features named for him in Deschutes County. Brown died in Prineville in 1903, but rumors of buried treasure near Crane Prairie have been more durable.